Joining me now, last segment before Stephen K. Bannon, is Curtis Ellis. Curtis, Senior Policy Advisor, American First Policies. Great noted writer on the Virginia Star. Everybody loves him. And he's with us now. He was going to be in our panel, but he got a better offer, so he's staying in Washington. He could have come with us to Virginia Beach. We had a ball set up to be in our panel for election night, but no, we got an invite to go to Trump Hotel. So he's going there, rubbing elbows with the big guys and the $1 million donors and eating hors d'oeuvres and caviar and champagne. No, he could have come to Virginia Beach in the Westin, but he told me and Dan Black, he said, hey, I got a better offer. See you later.
Oh, my
Thanks
God.
for coming.
Yeah. But, the weather's better in Virginia Beach, so I'm really going to miss that.
I mean, I'm still thinking I can talk you into coming, but I guess if
I
they
know,
called me...
it's still an open,
What are you going to do in Washington? There's no action.
I know. It's a ghost town.
They're not, and they're not going to call anything, so you just got to sit there.
It's a frozen swamp. It's a frozen swamp. It's not just a swamp. It's a frozen swamp.
Yeah, you come with us to Virginia Beach, you got action.
Yeah.
You got
fun. Yeah, baby. It's where
Plus,
the action is.
We'll buy you dinner.
That's the best offer I've had all day.
I know, right? Get out of New York. Escape from New York.
Yeah. We're still locked down here, in New York. It's terrible.
Adrian texted in from Richmond. He says, what? Curtis isn't going? I was all fired up. He said, tell him to go to the nearest 7-Eleven, and he can buy the champagne there in the box.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
The box champagne.
Sounds great.
It comes in a little box with a spigot.
Terrific. Terrific.
I wouldn't drink too much of it. Maybe.
You put the straw through your mask.
What is it that we drank in high school with the same age? We can say this. Was it like
Boone's
bottles
Farm apple wine?
Boone's Farm. That's right. Boone's Farm.
Apple wine.
It was like 89 cents. Remember?
Yeah, there's Ripple and Bally High. The Wino wine.
That's
Boone's
right.
Farm. That was it. That was apple wine. I think that's why Steve Jobs named his company Apple.
I mean, you at Boone's Farm, you would get such a hangover when you drink.
Ouch!
Oh my God!
Stuff.
And then wasn't there Bartles and James? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, right. Yeah, that was a little later. That came later, right? Or maybe not. Maybe it was. Yeah,
I remember
Bartles
Boone's
and James.
Farm.
Yeah.
And what was a beer we would get? I remember buying. It was like the same thing, like a 6-pack. Because back then you could drink at 18. I remember turning 18 and buying a 6-pack of Iron City beer for like $1.89. Iron City beer. It was like Rheingold.
Rheingold.
Well, that was a step up. Ballantine. There was Ballantine, Rheingold, and Schaefer. And Schaefer was like, wow. And then there was Pabst. And then Pabst was like, well, that was a little, that was a higher end. The Iron City beer. Schlitz. Rheingold, there's still Budweiser. Rheingold, Schaefer. These are all the New York beers, right?
Right. And then there was Old Something. I can't remember what that was.
And there was Ballantine.
It was like $1 a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So you were playing Smoke on the Water. The other day I woke up. I had to hear Ziggy Stardust. So I put.
No kidding.
Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. I put the CD on. I had to hear it. 1973, 72. That was a good one.
Yes. What was?
Yep. And I was just reading this book. Harvard did a study. They took They took a bunch of guys who were like 80 years old, and they put them on a 5-day retreat up in a monastery in New Hampshire, and they had them pretend they were 22 years younger. Right, so they had all the old Life magazines out, and they had videotapes, the TV. They could watch the old newscasts, watch the old TV shows. The music they listened to was all like Smoke on the Water and Ziggy Stardust. It was all 22, and then they did like body scans on these people and everything, and their bodies were 22 years younger. I am not making this up. They put themselves in the headspace of when they were 20. They pretended to be 20 years younger. And then they did the blood work and the cholesterol and the, whatever else, all the, the gizmos and the readings, and they found their bodies actually de-aged. So there you go. Keep playing that music, John. Keep playing that music.
You'll get younger. And what did you get? Ziggy what? What was
Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, my God, that is David Bowie.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I saw that concert. I saw him on his original Ziggy Stardust tour.
David Bowie.
Winterland, San Francisco.
Remember, I used to listen to. I remember one of my first dates we played. I was like a sophomore in high school, like a real date, where you got to have a chaperone. And we played. What was it? We played Peter Frampton something. I forget what the song is. Peter Frampton. Oh, my God.
Frampton.
Peter Frampton.
Oh, my gosh. Where he played the big thing was he played every instrument on the album.
Who was this,
like
Peter?
Multi-tracked, right?
Peter Frampton,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He was a good artist. Okay, let's get to Trump calls for Barr to do an investigation. The laptop gets to the FBI. Now, we can all say, why didn't the FBI do anything earlier? But now they have it. They have the laptop. It's 13 days out. What happens?
Well, what happens is, so now Catherine Herridge from CBS, used to be over at Fox, great national security reporter, was all over the Russia hoax, all over the, Peter Strzok and all that nonsense going on at the FBI. She is now over at CBS, and she too has confirmed that the FBI has confirmed they have this laptop in their possession. This is not a Russian scam, a Russian hoax. This actually does exist. It really is Hunter Biden's laptop, and the FBI has it. Why the FBI did nothing with this back in November, well, I'm sure Steve Bannon tells you all about it. He's been all over the place on that one, which is they should have done something back in November of last year when they got this. So what happens now is the floodgates have broken, the dam has broken, the floodgates are open. CBS, Major Garrett, Catherine Herridge over at CBS are now reporting on this. They have spoken the unnameable word, which is Hunter Biden laptop, right? They've acknowledged it exists, and this is, in fact, authentic. And so now I think we're going to see a drip, drip, drip of ugly and ugly accusations, ugly emails, ugly revelations from this laptop from hell. And it's going to be, it's really weirdly like a replay of 2016 of where Anthony Weiner's laptop changed the dynamic of the race toward the end. And that's what we're going to see again. This laptop, what we're seeing here, these emails of Hunter Biden taking money from foreign interests, setting up bank accounts for himself, getting rich, is just classic Washington swamp and classic government swamp. I worked for the New York State Legislature, the New York State Senate, 10 years ago. And this is what happens at the state legislature I don't know if it happens in Virginia, but it's typical in New York, in New Jersey, in all the corruption swamps, that the family members of the elected legislators become the funnel for money for special interests. They either, now we saw this, you see the campaigns, the electeds set up a campaign fund, and then they hire their relatives. And they pay their relatives $90,000 a year for a campaign that never happens because they have a safe seat they don't even have to campaign for. Or they set up a nonprofit, and the nonprofit gets a state grant. Or the law firm of the brother starts getting state contracts or starts getting, and look, everybody knows somebody who lives in a town where the town supervisor steers contracts to his favorite friend, who then kicks back some of the money to a private bank account, either of the town supervisor or the town supervisor's sister, or, that happens every day. You want the road grading contract, you want the street paving contract, pony up some money and you get it. And that's what Hunter Biden's doing here. And there's a story now, it's being exhumed, it's being dug up again, of New York Times ran it, and I think it was 2008, where Hunter Biden was getting paid by the big bank, MBNA, that's incorporated in Delaware. He's getting paid, he's on retainer for some ridiculous amount of money, while his father is sponsoring the bill that will help the big banks, so that if you go into bankruptcy, you can't write off your credit card debt. You can't write off your student loan debt. Senator Biden is doing this, and his son is getting paid by one of the banks who's going to benefit greatly from the bill that his father's writing. So, this is how it works in Washington. You know, the old story is, I don't want to see the tax return of a millionaire who ran for office. I want to see the tax return of the elected official who became a millionaire.
While in office.
While in office, right.
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many examples, Mark Warner being one of them, but there's so many examples. Denny Hastert being the prime example. And the guy went to Congress. He had $102 to his name. He was a high school coach, regardless of his other issues that have come out. The guy coached high school. He had no money. Literally, he had $100 in savings when he went to Congress. Came out a multimillionaire. Why? Because he started buying the land of where he knew they were going to put in highways. So he'd buy the land at $1, and the government would have to buy it off him for $10, eminent domain. So that's how he made millions and millions of dollars. And I mean, I could go on and on and on with these stories. I mean, Joe Biden never worked a day in his life ever, and he's a bajillionaire with houses all over the place. How did he get the money? The guy never had a job.
Right, and we don't know what kind of bank accounts. We don't know what kind of bank accounts are set up in the Cayman Islands or somewhere else for his brother James Biden, who got a contract building houses or something in Iraq, and it goes on and on and on. And this is famous. George Washington Plunkett, going back to the 19th century, George Washington Plunkett called it honest graft, right? He was a New York City, Tammany Hall corrupt politician, and he did exactly what you described Denny Hastert doing. He bought up land because he knew the city council was going to make it into a park, and then he sold it to the city for a tidy profit, and he called it honest graft. He said there's nothing wrong with this. You seize your opportunity and you take them. and that's how these guys work. So Peter Schweitzer's written all about it, and it's just typical. It's typical, and that's why this Joe Biden is the picture of a typical corrupt politician. He is the typical swamp creature, and I think that's what we're going to see more of. And you've got, and in addition, you've got, of course, the Chinese influence, which is a whole other thing, but it's hard to say which is the bigger story here. He is manifestly corrupt in a garden variety fashion. Mm-hmm. What he does, everybody else in Washington does. Mm-hmm. Just about everybody else in Washington does. And unfortunately, and the Chinese Communist Party understands how it works, and that's why they don't have to launch missiles. They don't have to send shiploads of troops to America. Instead, they send shiploads of cash to America, and they buy off everybody in Washington. And they bought Hunter Biden, and they do this all the time. They know you can't buy the politician directly, but you can buy the family of the politician, and it accomplishes the same end. You've effectively bought the politician. Dianne Feinstein's husband has made a fortune investing in China. Henry Kissinger has made a fortune counseling corporations how to invest in China. Then Henry Kissinger advises the government, saying, be nice to China because they will be a very effective ally in dealing with climate change in North Korea and everything else. We must be nice to them. So, Dianne Feinstein's driver was a Chinese communist spy. So, but they buy the family members of the government officials they seek to influence, and then it goes back to the Old Testament, Deuteronomy. Moses laid down the law. God laid down the law to Moses. Do not let judges take gifts because it clouds their judgment. Mm-hmm. So that was the first rule against bribes. You cannot bribe officials.
Give us, we're with Curtis Ellis. Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor, America First Policy. Curtis, give us a sense now of where you think this race is. I mean, and I want to just reminisce a little bit so we can put this in perspective. We're going to go back 4 years, 13 days to go. Curtis Ellis in New York at Trump Tower. I was there the final week. Curtis, at the time, we were doing much worse than we are now, as I recall. Also, truth be told, among friends here, we were there for a week. There were 4 people that thought we were going to win. You, me, Ann, who was there with us the whole time, and Andy Sarabian, as I remember. There wasn't another person in that building other than Bannon. He did, so I'll say 5, that thought we were going to win, including Kellyanne and everybody else. They were all making plans for the loss. Half the staff in there had their resumes out. So there was only a handful of us. Juxtapose that to now. How do you feel now?
I feel good. I feel I was listening to you before. The momentum is going in the right direction. And that's what we saw in 2016 as well. Because I was following the polls every day, the Real Clear Politics average of polls. And even before the laptop, the Wiener laptop thing happened, the polls were going in our direction. The momentum was in our direction. And then that happened, and it just really kept going in the same way. The momentum now is in our direction. And if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls, we are closer in Pennsylvania and in the other swing states than we were in 2016 at this point in the race. Hillary was ahead by like 6 or 7 points in Pennsylvania. Right now, Biden's only ahead by 4 or 5 points. And we have the registration advantage. I am just terribly afraid of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. And it was not helped at all by Chief Justice John Roberts allowing the ridiculous ruling by the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania to stand that would allow the counting of mailed ballots that are received up till Friday, the Friday after Election Day, without a postmark. I mean, this is just insane. How do you have ballot security and you know that the ballot was indeed cast by a real voter before Election Day if you don't have a postmark on it? I mean, this is just insane. So I am deathly afraid. And look, now Obama is making an appearance at a Get Out the Vote rally in Pennsylvania today or tomorrow. The Democrats are focused on Pennsylvania. You look at, I was watching Fox News last night, and Brett Baird did his little scenario, and it all comes down to Pennsylvania, and which is an interesting historical parallel that this is what happened in 1860 with Abraham Lincoln, another very fateful election preceding the Civil War. Pennsylvania was the decider, and that could be again the situation here. That's what put if it goes to Trump, that's what will put him over the top. If it goes to Biden, that's what would put him over the top. And now you've got this situation that cannot stand, where you could stuff a ballot box the day after Election Day and stuff a mailbox.
The thing is, they're going to know by Friday how many votes they need to steal it. That's where
Exactly.
the lawyers are going to get involved. But you're right, Pennsylvania, Stephen Douglas, Abe Lincoln, in 1860. Right? Stephen Douglas was the Democrat, came down to Pennsylvania. It was a very close race. Many people say had Douglas won that race, there'd be no Civil War. The South would not have seceded. They just didn't like Lincoln. And Douglas would have probably did a lot of the same policies, including abolition over time, a slower process. John Fredericks Radio Network, Curtis Ellis, thanks for being with us. We're out of time.